Hello everyone, in the current session let us discuss about ICD 10CM Conventions Part 1. Now we are focusing on format and structure of quotes, placeholder character, seventh character, abbreviations, punctuations, parentheses, other and unspecified quotes. Now coming to the introduction, the conventions for the ICD 10CM are the general rules for the use of classification independent of the guidelines. These conventions are incorporated within the alphabetic index and tabular list of the ICD 10CM as instruction notes. ICD 10CM is divided into two, alphabetic index and tabular list. Alphabetic index is an alphabetical list of terms and their corresponding codes, whereas the tabular list is a structured list of codes divided into chapters based on the body system or condition. The tabular list is a structured list of codes divided into chapters based on body system or condition. Now, coming to alphabetic index. As we all know, ICD 10CM is divided into two, alphabetical index and tabular list. The alphabetical index or alphabetic index is further categorized into following types: the index of diseases and injury, index of external causes of injury, the table of neoplasms, table of drugs and chemicals. Alphabetic index is subcategorized into index of diseases and injury, index of external cause of injury, table of neoplasm and the table of drugs and chemicals. Coming to the format and structure of ICD 10CM. The ICD 10CM tabular list contains categories, subcategories and codes. The ICD 10CM tabular list contains categories, subcategories and codes. The characters for categories, subcategories and codes may be either a letter or a number. All the categories are 3-character codes. A 3-character category that has no further subdivision is equivalent to a code. Now coming to subcategories. Codes may be 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 characters. That is, each level of subdivision after a category is called as subcategory. Each level of subdivision after a category is a subcategory and the final level of subdivision is a code. Codes that have applicable 7th character are still referred to as codes, not subcategories. This is an important point. The codes that have applicable 7th characters are still referred to as code and not as subcategories. And a code that has an applicable 7th character is considered invalid without the 7th character. Coming to the format of code. So each category is a 3-character term and each category is a 3-character term and each level of subdivision after the category is considered as a subcategory. And the final level of subdivision is considered as a code. Example for 5-character code. Here you can see A01. This is a 3-character term and this is considered as a category of typhoid and paratyphoid fevers. Now it is divided into subdivision with 4 characters. That is A01.0. The star mark indicates there is further subdivision. A01.1 indicates typhoid fever. And finally A01.00 indicates typhoid fever unspecified. And this is the final level of subdivision or a final code. Typhoid fever has a 5-character code, that is A01.00. So whenever you are supposed to address typhoid fever, we need to give this code A01.00, unspecified typhoid fever. Now coming to the example for a 6-character code. Here you can see C7A. This is a category of malignant neuroendocrine tumors. The subcategory is C7A.0. This is malignant carcinoid tumors. It is further categorized into C7A.01. This is a 5-character code and still this is not the final code. This is a subdivision. C7A.01. It describes malignant carcinoid tumors of small intestine. This is also a subdivision. Now finally, C7A.019. This code indicates malignant carcinoid tumor of the small intestine unspecified portion. And this is a final 6-character code. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. C7A.019. This is a final 6-character code. Now coming to codes with 7 character. The codes that have applicable 7th character are still considered or referred as codes, not as subcategories. And a code that has an applicable 7th character is considered invalid without the 7th character. Now let us discuss the example of a 7-character code. Here you can see S42. It is a category which indicates fracture of shoulder and upper arm. This is subdivided into S42.0, which indicates fracture of clavicle. This is further subdivided into S42.00, which indicates fracture of unspecified part of clavicle. This is further subcategorized into S42.001. Here, 1 in 6th character indicates the laterality, fracture of unspecified part of right clavicle. Still, this is not the final code. Finally, coming to the 7-character code, that is S42.001D. Here, D in the 7th character indicates subsequent encounter. 90% 7th character codes are applicable for musculoskeletal system. We will discuss in detail about the 6th and 7th character when we discuss that particular chapter. So S42.001D is the final 7-character code which indicates fracture of unspecified part of right clavicle, subsequent encounter. Now, use of codes for reporting purpose. For reporting purpose, only codes are permissible, not the categories or subcategories, and any applicable 7th character is required. Coming to the next convention, the placeholder character. The ICD-10CM utilizes a placeholder character X. The ICD-10CM utilizes a placeholder character X. The X is used as a placeholder at certain codes to allow further expansion. An example of this is at the poisoning, adverse effects and underdosing codes, which come under the categories T36 to T50. Where a placeholder exists, the X must be used in order for the code to be considered a valid code. Now let us discuss an example of code with X character or a placeholder character. Here T36.0, it is a subcategory. It indicates poisoning by adverse effect of and underdosing of penicillin. This is further subcategorized into T36.0X. Here X is the placeholder character, poisoning by adverse effect of and underdosing of penicillin. This is further subdivided, or the final code is T36.0X1. Here 1 indicates poisoning by penicillins, accidental or unintentional. Here, the sixth character signifies whether it is accidental or intentional or unintentional or underdosing or overdosing. In order to allow the sixth character, a placeholder is used in the place of fifth character for allowing for further expansion. So placeholders are generally used in codes to allow further expansion. So finally T36.0x1 is the final code which indicates poisoning by penicillin's accidental or poisoning by penicillin NOS. Now coming to seventh characters. Certain ICD-10CM categories have applicable seventh characters. The applicable seventh character is required for all codes within the category or as the nodes in the tabular list. The seventh character must always be the seventh character in the data field. We have to remember the seventh character must always be the seventh character in the data field. If a code that requires a seventh character is not 6 characters, a placeholder X must be used to fill in the empty characters. If the code that requires a 7th character is not a 6 character code, a placeholder X must be used to fill in the empty characters. Now coming to next convention, abbreviations. Abbreviations are of two types, NEC, not elsewhere classifiable, and NOS, not otherwise specified. Now coming to NEC, when a specified code is not available for a condition, the alphabetic index directs the coder to the other specified code in the tabular list. And the tabular list includes an NEC entry that is nothing but not elsewhere classifiable under a code to identify the code as the other specified code. That is NEC. When a specific code is not available for a condition, the alphabetic index directs the coder to other specified code in the tabular list. And the tabular list, it includes an NEC entry under a code to identify the or to code as the other specified code, that is NEC. Now coming to NOS. NOS is nothing but not otherwise specified. In other words, unspecified codes indicates NOS. This abbreviation is equivalent to unspecified. NOS is equivalent to unspecified. NEC is equivalent to other specified. NEC is nothing but not elsewhere classifiable or other specified. NOS is nothing but unspecified. These two are the abbreviations. Now let us discuss some examples for NOS, which is nothing but not otherwise specified. Here you can see the code. Here you can see the code A08.4. This is nothing. This indicates viral intestinal infection unspecified, which is nothing but NOS. This is applicable for viral enteritis NOS, viral gastroenteritis NOS, and viral gastroenteropathy NOS. For all these conditions, the code A08.4 is applicable. Similarly, for colitis NOS, the code is K52.9. For diarrhea NOS, the code is R19.7. For enteritis NOS, the code is K52.9. And for gastroenteritis NOS, the code is K52.9. Now coming to examples of NEC. A85 indicates other viral encephalitis not elsewhere classified. Specified viral encephalomyelitis. For these two, the code is A85. And B17.8 indicates other specified acute viral hepatitis, which includes hepatitis non-A, non-B, acute viral NEC. These are the examples of NEC, which is nothing but not elsewhere classifiable, or simply other specified codes. Now coming to the next convention, that is punctuations. So there are three types of punctuations in the ICD 10CM. The first one is brackets, next is parenthesis, and the next is colons. Now coming to brackets, as we know that ICD 10CM is categorized into tabular list and alphabetic index. So the brackets are used in tabular list to enclose synonyms, alternative wordings, or explanatory phrases, whereas brackets are used in alphabetic index to identify manifestation codes. Manifestation codes are nothing but the secondary conditions, secondary disease conditions which arise due to a primary disease condition. So the manifestation codes are included in the alphabetic index by including a second code shown in brackets directly after the underlying or etiology code, which should always be reported first. Here is an example. Here if you search for chlorioretinitis in alphabetic index, this will lead to see also inflammation, chlorioretinal, and you can see subtypes. Egyptian, chlorioretinitis Egyptian is indicated by B76.9 followed by D63.8. So this Egyptian chlorioretinitis, it can manifest anemia. Hence, it is indicated by two codes B76.9 and D63.8. Here D63.8 is nothing but anemia in other chronic diseased conditions classified elsewhere. Hence, this should be reported as secondary code along with the first code B76.8. Similarly, histoplasmic, if the chlorioretinitis is histoplasmic, this is indicated by two codes B39.9 followed by H32. H32 here, it is nothing but retinitis. It is a secondary or manifestation code. Hence, it is indicated with brackets. So here, this is histoplasmosis is indicated by B39. If you see this code, under the code you can see use additional code for any associated manifestations such as endocarditis, meningitis, pericarditis and retinitis. In the previous example, we can see that chlororetinitis is subcategorized into histoplasmic. So whenever it is histoplasmic, it is given by the code B39.9 followed by retinitis H32. Now let us discuss further examples of brackets. If you search for disease and Alzheimer's, if you search for Alzheimer's disease in the alphabetic index, you will find under the disease Alzheimer's, it is given by G30.9 followed by a code in brackets F02.80. Usually the Alzheimer's disease is associated with dementia. So whenever the physician documents Alzheimer's disease with dementia, you need to give two codes G30.9 followed by F02.80, which is nothing but dementia in diseases classified elsewhere without behavioral disturbances. Because dementia is a manifestation of Alzheimer's disease, this is indicated by brackets in the alphabetic index. So brackets are used in the alphabetic index to indicate manifestation codes. One more example is Hoffman's syndrome. This is given by E03.9 followed by G73.7. So hypothyroidism may manifest with myopathy. hypothyroidism may manifest in myopathy. E03.9 is a code for hypothyroidism. So that condition is called as Hoffman syndrome. So here G73.7 is myopathy in other diseases classified elsewhere. Myopathy in hypothyroidism is given by Hoffman syndrome. So whenever you need to code Hoffman syndrome, you have to give two codes, E03.9 followed by G73.7. Here the G73.7 is indicated in brackets because this is a manifestation code. Now coming to the next convention, they are parentheses. We have discussed about brackets. Now let us discuss about parentheses. Parentheses are used in both alphabetic index and tabular list to enclose supplementary words that may be present or absent in the statement of disease or procedure without affecting the code number to which it is assigned. In other words, they are referred to as, the terms within the parenthesis are referred to as non-essential modifiers. The non-essential modifiers in the alphabetic index to diseases apply to subterms following a main term, except which a non-essential modifier or a subentry are mutually exclusive. The subentry takes precedence. The non-essential modifiers, they appear in the parenthesis and do not affect code number assigned. And the dashes at the end of any entry indicate additional characters are required. Here you can see amblyopia is the condition. Here it is given along with non-essential modifiers which are enclosed in the parenthesis. Congenital, anopecia, partial and suppression. These are the subterms or subentries or non-essential modifiers which are enclosed within the parenthesis. The non-essential modifiers in the alphabetic index to diseases, they apply to subterms following a main term, except when a non-essential modifier or a subcategory are mutually exclusive. The sub-entry takes the precedence. For example, in ICD-10-CM alphabetic index, under the main term enteritis, acute is a non-essential modifier and chronic is a subentry. In this case, the non-essential modifier acute does not apply to subentry chronic. Further examples of parentheses are edema and edematous. Whenever we search for edema, you can see it is given along with infectious, pitting, toxic. These are the subterms or the non-essential modifiers. Whenever the physician documents infectious edema, we need to code R60.9. Whenever he documents pitting edema or toxic edema, in both the cases, the code is R60.9. The number of subentries will not indicate or dictate the number of codes. And similarly, staphyllitis, acute, chronic, cathedral, gangrenous, membranous, suppurative, these are all the subterms or the non-essential modifiers. Whenever the physician indicates ulcerative staphyllitis, we need to code K12.2. When he documents membranous staphyllitis or suppurative staphyllitis or cathedral staphyllitis, in all these cases the code is K12.2 only. And similarly for cough, even though if it is epidemic cough or nervous cough, you need to code R05.9. In case of cough, affected, epidemic and nervous are nothing but subentries or non-essential modifiers which are enclosed in the parenthesis. In the alphabetic index and both tabular list, the parentheses are used to enclose the non-essential modifiers. And non-essential modifiers are nothing but the subterms following a main term. Now coming to the final punctuation, colon. The colons are used in tabular list after an incomplete term which needs one or more of the modifiers following colon to make it assignable. It is used in both includes and excludes nodes. Here is an example. In the code G73.7, which is nothing but myopathy in diseases classified elsewhere, under it you can find an excludes one code along with a colon. The excludes one is also a type of convention which we will discuss in detail in the next session. So as of now, let us focus on colon. Colon indicates myopathy in. So whenever you code this code G73.7, this is not a complete code. Under this, first you need to code myopathy in rheumatoid arthritis or sarcoidosis or scleroderma or systemic lupus erythematosus. These should be the PDX followed by G73.7 as the STX. So this is the function of colon. It indicates is used after an incomplete term which needs one or more of the modifiers following the colon to make it assignable. In addition to includes and excludes nodes, colons are also used in the case of use additional code. This is also a type of convention which will be discussed in the next session. So coming to example, in case of use additional code, whenever we see E11 series or category which indicates type 2 diabetes mellitus. So whenever we code type 2 diabetes mellitus, under it you can see use additional code to identify control using insulin, oral anti-diabetic drug or oral hypoglycemic drugs. So whenever we code type 2 diabetes mellitus, we need to code additional code of type of control. If it is insulin, you need to code Z79.4. If it is oral hypoglycemic or anti-diabetic drug, you need to code Z79.84. They are also used in case of code first. Code first is nothing but it indicates a primary condition which must be coded first before the manifestation. As in the previous example G73.7, which is nothing but myopathy in diseases classified elsewhere, you can see under it code first underlying diseases such as hyperparathyroidism. So hyperparathyroidism may manifest myopathy. So before giving G73.7, you need to code first hyperparathyroidism. Here you can see code first is also using colons. Code first will also use colons. Use additional code will use colons. Now coming to other specified codes. This is another convention. Other codes or other specified codes are used when the information in the medical record provides detail. A condition is described in detail for which a specific code does not exist. In such cases, we need to code other specified codes for that particular condition. In the alphabetic index entries with NEC, in the line designate other codes in the tabular list. These alphabetic index entries represent specific disease entities for which no specific code exists. So the term is included within an other code. In simple words, if the physician documents a detailed for a specific condition and exact code is not available for that specific condition, in those cases we need to code other specified codes. Now coming to the example. If the physician documents other viral enteritis, you need to code A08.39. Under it you can see enterovirus enteritis NEC or echovirus enteritis, Coxsackie virus enteritis. In all these cases you need to code A08.39. For other specified anemias, the code is D64.89. These are the examples of other specified codes. For other specified sepsis, the code is A41.89. For other specified viral diseases, the code is B33.8. And for other specified cough, the code is R05.9. In all these cases, the physician documents detailed for the condition and specific code is not there. Whenever detailed is mentioned in the medical record and specific code is not given, in all those cases we need to code other specified codes. Now coming to unspecified codes. Codes titled unspecified are for the use when the information in the medical record is insufficient to assign a more specific code. For those categories for which an unspecified code is not provided, other specified code may represent both other and unspecified codes. This is an important. For those categories for which an unspecified code is not provided, other specified code can be represented for both other and unspecified scenarios. Coming to the examples for unspecified codes, cerebral infraction unspecified is indicated by I63.9. Adenovirus infection unspecified, it is indicated by B34.0. And sepsis unspecified organism, it is indicated by A41.9. Anemia unspecified is indicated by D64.9. Unspecified codes are given whenever there is insufficient documentation in the medical record to assign a more specific code. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for further videos on medical coding and CPC training.